nice to see It's really nice to see familiar faces and also new faces, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Michal Ben-Dov. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at the Taub Center. Just a few logistics, we can't start without them. As you may have heard, this meeting is being recorded. And as you know, we are under attack here in Israel. And if we do get a warning signal that an attack will be beginning in Israel, which happened an hour and a half ago, so we're hoping it won't happen again during this hour, we will stop the meeting, get into our safe spaces, and reschedule at a different time. A few sentences about the Taub Center, and then I will turn it on to the agenda. For those of you who don't know us, we are a leading socioeconomic think tank in Israel for over 40 years, with the mission of improving the well-being of all of Israelis through smarter, more effective, data-driven social policy. You can see our research areas, which include education, health, economy, demography, early childhood, labor market, welfare, and environment and health. I think one of the things that sets us apart and makes us a unique research center in Israel is our interdisciplinary, nonpartisan, independent, and action-oriented research. Every publication we have is not meant to sit on a shelf or be in the academic discourse. It's actually meant to help and assist policymakers and stakeholders to make better, more informed decision based on data. And we focus on the impact that the research can make, and that's what we are here to do. Our independence means that we do not receive government funding and we do not do any research for hire. And this allows us to ask hard questions, to share honest findings, and also hopefully engage all political sides to help build a stronger and more just society. So our funding is really based completely on philanthropy, on foundations and donors, and our board members who believe and support our work and understand the broad impact that we make. And this is an opportunity to say thank you for those of you who are with us today. We really couldn't do this without you. We are planning on conducting a series of these webinars in the upcoming weeks. So make sure you join our mailing list so you can stay updated. And I will get to the agenda for the day. We will be hearing from three wonderful speakers and experts. Colonel Miri Eisin, our board chair, which will talk to us about Israel's strategic position in this Iran war. She will be followed by Professor Avi Weiss, who will give us the economic impacts of the war and his perspective on this. And Nir Kaidar will finish and present the most updated data about some of the things that we're living through over the past few days. We plan to leave room and time for discussion, and we will open up the chat towards the end of Nir's talk, and you'll be able to put your questions there, and we hope to get to all of them. And now I'm really pleased to hand this over to Miri Eisin, the chair of the Taub Center board.
Wow, Michal, thank you so much. It's like, for me, very different for a change that I get to speak on behalf of the Taub Center in a Taub Center event on my, what I call my other hat. So I am the chair of the Taub Center. I'm a very proud member and have been a board member for many years. And I'm going to talk about what we are in right now. What I'm going to try and address are 4 different points. I'm going to talk about what we are doing, and that means Israel. I'm going to talk about the timing of why we are doing it now. I'm going to talk about endgame regime change, a little bit of what are our goals in that sense. And I'm going to talk about resilience. And from that, I'll also be transitioning over both to Avi and to Nir to be talking about the impact inside Israel. I'll be talking about it specifically in the more military concerns. So what are we striking? What Israel started at the initial strike on Friday morning is the beginning of a campaign that was never supposed to be a standalone strike. And what we struck on Friday, June the 13th, at around 3 a.m. simultaneously were 5 different types of targets. And that's what we have been attacking from that initial strike and as it goes on. What are we talking about? One is the nuclear. Everybody understands that. There are a lot of nuclear sites inside Iran. Iran has gone down the illegal nuclear path for many years, and we are striking different ones. We have not yet struck all of them, but that's from the beginning, nuclear. The second that we did from the beginning and we continue to do all of the time is what I'm going to call in general air defense. Air defense means that what Israel achieved from Friday morning and that we've had ever since is air superiority. And having that consistent air superiority is something that you have to achieve and you have to keep. So we attacked nuclear sites. We attacked different air defense sites for air superiority. What everybody noticed a lot of on that early morning is that simultaneously, at the exact same time, this will have to do afterwards also with the timing, we attacked decision makers in not the Islamic regime. We haven't touched Khamenei and the Islamic regime yet, I should say, but we have not gone there. This is a military target, and we are talking about all of the different individuals who are at the top of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. It's known as the IRGC, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. I give you the names themselves. We've heard them before, but what we have done and everything I said that we did in that early morning, we have been consistently doing ever since again and again because we achieved air superiority. What else in addition? In addition, we have been attacking the missile launch sites, the drone launch sites. That means the missile launchers on the ground, the drone swarms on the ground. That's 4 different targets already. And the 5th one that we have been doing is attacking both the facilities where they are made, and that's of importance in itself. And in addition, we are attacking it's not symbols, but it's different elements of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, including, for example, and I've totally lost my sense of time, so it probably was yesterday, but it could have been today, the Iranian TV station, which is the Iranian Revolutionary Guard TV station, and that was attacked as a mouthpiece of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. So we have 5 different types of targets that have been from the beginning. When we achieve the air superiority, what that gave us is the capability to continue to attack. Talk about distances. It's very challenging for any of us to even understand that. It's mainly done by Israeli air platforms. It can be manned aircraft, unmanned aircraft. You're flying just to get there. Over 1,000 kilometers, 1,100, 1,200. We've already attacked places that are 2,000 kilometers away from Israel on the eastern side of Iran. And it's in that 5 group of different targets. Why now? Why now? And that timing is something that we can all breathe in deep and we can have our own decisions if yes, no. For me, as somebody who is openly in that sense been critical of all sorts of things inside Israel, when it comes to what the Islamic regime of Iran was posing as a threat to their quest, illegal quest, in so many different ways for nuclear weapons. Does it mean that they were already there or not there? In a moment, I'll talk about the timing, but it was a quest which was known by the world, followed by the world. That's one issue, is where they were on that quest. Hand in hand with that, which is about the nuclear quest and where they were, it's about your capability to be able to actually attack them. This is not a new plan. This is not a new idea. I've been in this for a very long time, and I've already spoken a decade ago where people would ask me, is Israel about to attack the Iranian nuclear facilities? And when you want to have a credible threat, if you want to actually threaten those nuclear facilities, you actually have to have the capability. I think that we had the capability a decade ago. Why didn't we attack then? The world was very much in negotiations. Israel is not against the idea of negotiations. But what has happened over the last decade, and I really should say 20 years, is that the Islamic regime has consistently continued trying to do different illegal nuclear paths. And the International Agency of Atomic Energy, based in Vienna, last week before this attack, said for the first time ever that Iran was going down illegal nuclear military grade weaponry, the development of those weapons. So when you talk about that, it's both about the timing itself of where they are in the nuclear, but it's very much also about the capability. Capability is made up out of 2 different elements. One is the intel, the intelligence. Listen, what we've done is, I want to say unheard of, kind of impressive. That's me being understated. But what Israel has done is this means to do just the initial attack, let alone the follow-up attacks that we've been doing in these 5 days, is you have to have gathered the intel on where all of these people were, where they were going to be in an exact time, where all the facilities are, how you are going to take into account in that sense what you're doing. I mentioned that one of the main targets is the missile facilities themselves, the launchers. Part of that, a large part of that, has to do with what they're firing against us, so that you have to know that up front. And that gathering of intel is something that is done over years. They didn't start doing this 6 months ago or a year ago. You build it over a very long time. But timing is also that you can do it in a window. It's a possibility that you're there, and that has to do with the operational capability. So I wasn't on any of the planes. I haven't been there, but you can understand that to put together the operational capability, you have to train for that. To put that together with the intel, to find that timing, what can I say? It came together Friday, June 13th in the morning, together with the clear-cut threat that there's no question that Iran is going on these illegal nuclear paths, including that the International Agency of Atomic Energy said so last week. So the decision was made. So I gave here about the strikes, and I gave here about the timing. What's the end game? And for a moment, I'm going to leave the end game, and I'm going to come to us, even though, because what you do when you are preparing the operational side is you're not only preparing how to attack, you're not only preparing the intel on the sites that you're attacking. What you're also preparing, and this is part of the military world, is you're preparing how you are going to defend ourselves. And that's us. When I say defend ourselves, everybody looks at it and goes, the Iron Domes. First of all, it's not Iron Dome at all, but that's something else. Iron Dome is for short-range rockets. It's for the ones that were arriving from the Gaza Strip and a bit from Hezbollah. We're talking about different interceptors. It's about the interceptors. And we've built that capability over the last 10, 15 years. Not all of them were operational until this last year. These interceptors are amazing. They do 90%. You know what? If I go to the exact data, I have to look at it from the one that was from before, because I never remember in that sense, and it doesn't matter the exact data. Let's say that until now, they have fired 400 missiles at Israel, and I am talking about ballistic missiles that the bulk of them have warheads that are of 0.5 ton. These are not what we got from the Houthis. This is not similar to what was coming from Hezbollah. These are going out into the atmosphere, coming back in. They hit hard. We all have seen the devastation. Now I'm going to be statistics, and I'm going to end in that sense with resilience and then hand over to Avi, because we intercept 90%. Wow. We even intercept more. Statistically, they said that they've fired 400, around 30 some, 32, 33 got through. That's amazing. That's more than 90%. And then when you look at the devastation of what those that got through did, you go, oh my God. But I need you to understand that in the estimates before an attack like this, if you had asked me, I would have said, I'm really wary at saying these things, but I'm saying them in any case, that they would get through way more, that they would fire way more. And part of that preliminary attack, that first strike on Friday morning, was to prevent the immediate response. But even more than that, the immediate response of Iran was supposed to have been Hezbollah. It was supposed to have impacted the north and the south, and the times would have been very different. And here I get to us, because the resilience in our home front is not about the interceptors. It's about every single one of us in Israel. It's about the fact that over the last 20 months, not that we didn't know before, we've learned to act responsibly. We understand the instructions that we're told, and all of us knew about the safe room. The difference of the devastation that's been happening right now with the Iranian attacks is because of the combination of the type of missile and the warhead. It's way more devastating. And I'm going to end with saying that we're all responsible, which means that I'm not at home. And anybody who's ever seen me on TV knows that that's not my usual backdrop of where I am, because I moved to a place where there is a safe room, because the standard safe room, and I say that with my heart out to the 24 people that have been killed in the last 5 days, but the safe room, are acting safely, are going there, is saving lives. And that is part of our capability and our resilience, and it very much impacts how much longer we can take this. The aim itself is to degrade the nuclear, to degrade the missiles, to attack and try as much as possible to show in its own way the vulnerability of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard that have been the ones threatening us for over 25, 30 years, to show in that sense that the fact that for all of these years they supplied all of their proxies, and what we're doing right now is to take away from them those different capabilities. I can't tell you it'll be over tomorrow or even next week, but I can say that this is not something that's supposed to go on forever. It's limited, it's clear cut in its aims. And again, I'm talking about the military strategic aims. So I spoke a bit about our own resilience. I'm going to hand over on what this does to Israel at the macroeconomy to our wonderful president of the Taub Center, Avi Weiss. Avi, over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Miri. The problem is you are always a very hard act to follow. So I'm going to have to do what I can. I'm going to talk to you about some of the macroeconomic expectations for this war. I'm going to share the presentation and get that started. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you, as I said, about some of the macroeconomic implications of what's going on inside of Israel, what's happening with respect to this war right now. And here I put up this first slide because there really is a very, very big caveat. So first of all, since I'm just going to be talking about the macroeconomic perspective, at this point, I'm not talking about the human perspective. I'm not talking about the lives that have been lost. I'm not talking about the people who've been injured or in hospital.
Avi, I'm getting comments that people can't hear you well, so maybe talk closer to the microphone.
All right, so is this better? Let me know. Is that good? Okay. I hope
it's like the impossible, Avi. Talk a bit slower and then it'll be clearer.
Okay, I will try to do that. Okay, so in my presentation, as I said, I am not going to be speaking about the human side of it. I'm not going to be speaking about the people the lives that have been lost already. I'm not going to speak about the pressures that people have. I'm not going to speak about what's happening in the hospitals in Israel. Nir is going to talk about that after I finish, and I'm really only going to concentrate on the economic perspective. So that's what I'm going to talk about. And then I put this big caveat there. Now, I put the caveat there, and I'm telling you that this is all very preliminary. We're only 5 days into this, and we don't know exactly how long it's going to take. We don't know how it's going to develop. The numbers I will give you, except for the ones that are looking backwards, will basically be, to some extent, guesswork. But it's really based on the experience we have, based on the information that we have to this point. But you should certainly take the numbers with somewhat of a grain of salt, because it could change a lot, and it probably will change a lot. We just don't know exactly how. So let's dive into it with that caveat having been mentioned. So let's talk about the direct costs of the war. Now, there was an attack a year ago in April in 2024, and that attack cost us about 4 to 5 billion shekel. Now, just to tell you how much that is in dollars, since many of you are in the United States, that's a little bit under $1.5 billion. It's very significant for the Israeli economy, not nearly as significant for the U.S. economy. But there you were talking about 130 ballistic missiles that were sent into Israel, and a bunch of drones that were also sent in. Israel, just in the very first 3 nights of this war, it already cost Israel about 10 billion shekel. So about twice what it had cost us that confrontation a year ago, and only 5 days into it. This is going to continue to grow, and assuming that we can get this over in about a month, we don't know. I don't know if that's true, but if we can get this over in about a month, that would probably happen more likely if the United States joins than if not. Then, assuming Iranian capacity gets lowered, we're going to get to about 40 billion shekel. So that's a very, very significant sum, about $12 billion. In addition to that 40 billion shekel, we have the cost of the war with Gaza. So far this year, it's been 135 billion shekel, given that it was expected to be over already. It's not over yet. We have an additional cost of about 25 billion shekel. Add it all together, you get to a total of about 200 billion shekel. That's 10% of Israel's GDP. So this is very, very costly to the Israeli economy. If we take a look at the defense expenditure, you can see that this is the percentage out of GDP that is going on defense. And you can see that before this entire war in Gaza started, before the attack on October 7th, you can see that we were spending about 4% of GDP per year on defense. It went up to about 7 to 8% as a result of the war. And now it's going up even more to somewhere around 10%. Now, those numbers that are at the right-hand side, the 9%, the 11%, those are really just, guesses. But if we're going to get to that 10% that I said before, that's about where it's going to be. But I don't know exactly where that's going to be. So those are just, as I said, learned estimates. If we take a look at the damages that have happened so far, well, the damages, the previous attacks, both in April and in October last year, caused very little damage. But there is significant damage this time. As Miri said, we're being hit a lot more. And the initial claims to date were about of property damage are about 2 billion shekel. That's a lot of money. And the truth is, that's only what's been claimed to this point. Probably that's going to go up by at least 50%. And this is just another expenditure that the government is going to have to foot in order to be able to help the country along. We do know that there was a hit in the refineries in Haifa, and we don't know what that's going to cost. We don't know how big the damage is going to be, what's going to take to fix that, but that's going to be very, very substantial. If we take a look at what it means for the deficit and for debt inside of Israel, well, the deficit in Israel was expected to be about 5%. That's optimistic, but that's what it was expected to be before this started. And this is going to add about 3% more. So we're going to be at a deficit of about 8% or more than 8%. And that's very, very significant. That's a lot of money. And that's going to shoot up the debt to GDP ratio. The debt to GDP ratio, which is very important for Israel's credit rating, for the amount of interest Israel has to pay on its debt, was expected to be about 69%, which is 10% higher than it would have been without the war. And now it's going to go up to about 75%. Just to give you an idea, it didn't even reach that during COVID. In other words, it's gotten to a maximum of about 72, 73%. And now we're probably going to go over that. And that's very significant for Israel's credit rating. However, let me say with that, today S&P put out a report on what they expect to do with respect to Israel's credit rating. And for now, they are not lowering it. For now, they are not changing it. They're actually in their discussion, they give 4 different scenarios. Some of them are more realistic, some less. But if this is up to 3 months long, they don't see themselves at this point lowering the Israel's credit rating. But Israel still has a negative outlook. So that's with respect to the S&P. With respect to economic growth, which is to a large extent the bottom line, we just don't know. It's very hard to estimate what's going to happen. We do know that the labor market's going to take another hit. We have about 70,000 reservists in now, and that's gone up, or it was in before last Thursday, and now that's gone up. I don't know by how much, maybe Miri knows, but this is a very, very rough guess of about 100,000 serving right now. I'm not sure if that's right. And there have been major problems. Israel is in a semi-lockdown. We're working from home when we're working at all. The schools are shut down, so parents are taking care of their children and with their children and not really being able to get out to the labor force as much. They're talking a bit again about furlough systems inside of Israel. Don't know if that's going to happen or not happen, but that could happen. And to some extent, from that perspective, it's similar to what happened in COVID when we had the furloughs. It's very different, of course, how it's happening worldwide. This is happening just in Israel. 8% drop in GDP during COVID, during that first period. It's similar in many ways to what's happening with the war. At the start of the war, we had a 5.4% fall in GDP. So we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but some estimates say we could fall in growth from 3.5%, which was optimistic, which was the Bank of Israel was saying, but others were saying less than that. It could fall down to about 2.5%, which means that growth will be much, much smaller than expected. My last thing I'm gonna say is let's look forward a little bit and think about what we should expect should be happening inside of Israel from a macroeconomic perspective. First of all, because of the larger expenditures, you're going to have to get it from someplace. Either you increase your debt, well, you don't want to really want to do that because that's a long run cost, or you have to make more budgetary cuts, which is very hard. We've already cut about 2%. Now we're going to cut another 1.5% to 2%, possibly. Increased taxation is also difficult because that's already happened to some extent, and it's hard to find where to increase it now unless you increase the value-added tax again, which is, the easiest to do, but it is also very not a very good tax to increase because it is very regressive. The other thing, what you do need to do when we move out of this, when you're able to move forward, is you need to take the steps that are going to increase growth. To increase growth, you need to get more participation in the labor market by the groups that are not participating, better education or better or more marketable education for those groups to allow them to be able to be absorbed and get higher salaries and produce better inside the labor market. And also where Israel is really, really, really lacking for a very long time is in public capital and in particular transportation systems. And that has a long way to go. So with that, I don't know, optimistic, pessimistic, I don't know where to put it. View of what's happening in Israel, I'm going to turn this over to Nir.
Thank you very much, Avi.
Nir is the Director General of the Taub Center, and who's a pleasure to work with.
Thank you, Avi. So, thank you very much. We'll start a little bit with the numbers, what's going on now in Israel. So, as Miri said earlier, 24 Israelis were killed by missiles in the last week. We can see that most of them were in the center of Israel, but we have also 7 people from the north, 4 from the city of Tamra, and 3 from Haifa. Lucky, I said, we don't have any casualties in the last 24 hours. But also it's important to take a look at all the people that went to the hospitals and all the people that were injured during the war. And we can see that more than 3,000 people were hospitalized during the war. It's hundreds of people each day. You have here the data for also for today until the afternoon. So we can see that a lot of people are coming to the hospital. Most of them were injured with minor injuries. If you're looking what's going on now in the hospitals, we can see that today, now in the afternoon, we have almost 400 people in the hospitals. Most of them, they are in the emergency rooms, but almost 200 people are hospitalized. Most of them, as you can see in this graph, from the center of Israel, from Bat Yam, Tel Aviv, and Rishon LeZion. In the next slide, we can speak about the evacuees. Today, the data that we have more than 800 families and more than 3,000 people that were evacuated from their houses. During the war, from the south and the north, we used to get to talk about hundreds of thousands of people that were evacuated, but now it's different numbers, and we can see that it will take a long time until these people will be able to go back home. More than 20 buildings are expected to be demolished. And the welfare ministry and the welfare department in the local municipalities, they're doing a lot of efforts in order to provide solutions for these families, some in community centers and some in hotels. As Avi said, we can take a look at all the property damage claims that were filed to the government until last evening. So it's almost 20,000 property damage claims. The estimate cost for now, it's 2 billion shekels. It will be much more at the end. Most of them, they are because of structural damage to buildings, but also we have home contents and cars. It's really important, as Miri said, to have safe rooms in Israel. The situation now is different, it's totally different than we had when we had rockets from Gaza. And now it's really important that all the people will be in safe rooms or in shelters. In shelters, it's more complex because it takes much more time to get to shelter in your building or in the streets. And today, only half of the people in Israel have safe rooms in their apartments. And it's really important to say that it's not divided equally between all the cities of Israel. The vulnerable population in Israel, particularly those living in poverty, face weaker protections. And we can see that only 1/4 of the people from the first and second lower deciles, but also people from the upper level of society, a lot of them don't have safe rooms. So this is a major issue. And in Tamra, the city in the north that 4 people were killed, they don't have any public shelter in Tamra, and only 30% of the people in Tamra have safe room in their houses. With that, we can go to speak a little bit about the education system. The education system in Israel is not prepared to protect the students. 40% of the schools don't have shelters or have only partial level of protection for the students. the students in Israel since Friday, they are not going to school, more than 2 million students in Israel. We have kids that were in the 8th grade 5 years ago when COVID started and didn't went to school because COVID, and now they miss the matriculation exams and the graduation parties because of the war. And we can see in this picture a special education school in Bnei Brak that was destroyed by a missile 2 days ago, and it was very lucky that that students were at home and they didn't went to school. Beside education, we also need to talk about critical infrastructures in Israel. We can see a picture of from Haifa, the refinery in Haifa that was hit 2 days ago, and there will be a real problem in Israel if the power stations and the fuel stations will be damaged. But it's not only that. Because of the war, we are producing electricity from more polluting sources, and we have also impact on the environment in Israel. We can move on to talk a little bit about the Israeli academia. Here you can see the building from the Weizmann Institute that was hit by a missile. Nobody was injured, but the laboratories in this building were ruined totally, and years of research down the drain because of dead animals and burned test tubes, and it will be very hard to recover all the really important and life-saving research that was done in this building in the Weizmann Institute. I want to speak also a little bit about what's going on. Israelis that want to come back to Israel. So there's war in Israel and everybody wants to come back to Israel. They want to come back because they have their families here, their workplace, some of them in the defense forces. And it will take, now we have more than 120,000 people, Israelis, that are unable to return to Israel. And it will take more than 2 weeks to get all of them back to Israel. And this is a major issue now in the Israeli society. And also the Israeli that wants to go out of Israel, they are not able to do it. I want to speak a little bit about mental health in Israel. So this is from a research that we have since COVID, that around 600 people each day self-report their mental stress, and we can see the jump in the last few days. This is actually the same level as the stress levels in the beginning of the war in October 7th, 2023. So we can see that the stress level around Israeli went higher. Also, if we're looking about calls for mental health support call centers, there's 700% increase in Israelis calling to the call centers to get support on mental health. A research that we did at the Taub Center, and we are currently doing, we are measuring the stress, anxiety, and depression among parents of young children and also the kids. We can see that during the war, there was decreasing stress among parents, but now when we'll do the survey again, I believe that we'll see different results. I want to end with a little bit data about teenagers. This is data not from the current week, but from April 2025, and we can see the major influence of Israeli teenagers. And as I said earlier, the teenager that suffers COVID and the war in the last 2 years, and now the attacks on and from Iran. And I believe that we'll see major impact on the teenagers in the near future and also for many more years. Avi, back to you. Thank you very much.
So I think with that, we're going to open this to discussion, to questions. Michal, do you want to run this?
Sure. Thank you to all our speakers, and let us know. I saw there was one question at the chat so far from Ricky Lieberman. If we have, I think this is for Miri, if we have air control of Tehran, is there a way we can detect missiles as they are not shot to Israel and down them in Iran? Are satellites of help? I suspect if we could, we would, but still asking.
So I love the kind of questions of the ones that we really do. It's like, first of all, we're doing whatever we can. Right now, we actually are hunting the missile launchers. So I can't say that we can intercept the missile once it's been launched in Iran. For that we have the interceptors. It's not something that you can do on the ground. But what we're doing now is if they launch, we're attacking the launcher. And they don't have an endless amount of launchers. And right now, one of the reasons I think that there's been the change in the time that we in Israel all are very aware of, that until the day before yesterday, we kind of got 20-minute warning. And then after that, it would be a more specific one when they fired the rockets, had to do with what I'm going to call static launchers that were in a place where they had to do something before they started and we could give a longer warning. And now they're using mobile ones. But what we're doing is we're using all of our different intel operational capability. Remember that what is over our air superiority, you said satellites, but our air superiority is all about both the manned aircraft, but the unmanned aircraft. And that gives us lots of eyes that are looking over territory. All of these different type of launches give out a lot of signals. They can't hide it when they fire a warhead of 0.5 ton in a ballistic missile. That's something that you see. The vehicle that it's on right now, they're using mobile ones. So what we're trying to do is to hunt those. And I think we're being more and more successful. I know it doesn't feel like it is for us right now, perhaps in Israel, but remember this, that on that first night, the first time they attacked, they haven't really attacked with more than 50 missiles at a time. They've been tracking with drones. None of the drones have gotten through, and that's because of our active defenses. But the missiles themselves, that number is a number that's been going down. They were attacking 50, and then they did 50, and then they went down to 30, and now they're going down to 10, and then they're going down to 5, and that has to do with our hunting them. So I really do think in that sense that we're doing much, much better.
We have another question from Rachel. Is Israel really in the position to encourage a regime change in Iran? We haven't succeeded in Gaza.
So I love the question, Rachel, about regime change. It's probably the question that I get the most. And as you all know, I do a lot of international media. I don't think that we are going to do regime change. It's just like in the same sense of Hamas in the Gaza Strip, Hamas is Hamas, terror organization. It's also Arabic-speaking Palestinian that was founded in the Gaza Strip. It didn't come from the outside. And that is a non-state terror organization. The Islamic regime of Iran is much more complex. 45 years ago, they had a revolution. That revolution was of Persian-speaking Iranians. It wasn't done from the outside. And in that sense, I don't think that we can change the regime for them. I'll even go so far and say similar to Hamas in the Gaza Strip is that probably half the population do support this regime and half the population don't. So this isn't about the regime change, but there's no question that it's about the focus, okay? Because this regime has been very focused on exporting its revolution and about annihilating the state of Israel. And instead of looking at, we have to destroy them, we have to change the regime, I'd like us to think about us showing them the price. And so it may not change their rhetoric, but they won't have both the capabilities, and the entire world is looking at that. So I personally, if they would ask me, they don't ask me, would not recommend necessarily killing Khamenei. For those who don't know, Khamenei is 88. You could just leave him and he'll die. I mean, that was me being very sarcastic in any case, but he's not going to be around forever. And when Khamenei goes, there's going to be somebody instead of him. When somebody instead of him goes, there will be somebody instead of him. But that rhetoric, I mean, Khamenei has been the supreme ruler for 35 years, from 1988. That's a very long time. And in that sense, I think that we really do need to breathe in deep. It isn't about destroying everything, but it's also not believing the rhetoric that comes out from there. So yes, I want regime change. No, I don't think that we're going to be doing it, but I think that in our actions, we are bringing about a completely different Middle East because we are exposing what Iran really can do, what the Islamic regime can do. And they were the backers of all of the instability, not all, okay, there are other ones too, but they were the main factors in the ideology and supplying the weapons and giving the capabilities to all of the proxies that have been firing and fighting against us, not just in the last 20 months, but also. So yes, I do think that that's an important part.
We have another question from El Hanan, and I'll add Chaya's question to his. What is the likelihood of the Americans giving material support? And Chaya asks additionally, why is Israel fighting alone and there are no allies fighting with us?
I'll start and then I'll hand over to Avi, because I think that Avi, we both want to answer this one. I'm going to say on the military level, that we all have to breathe in deep. The other countries weren't willing to do it. That's what I started at the beginning. We gathered the intel, we did the operational, we have the air superiority, we're doing it alone. Kudos to us, excuse me for putting it in those terms. It isn't without support, because the support is also very quiet, which means that specifically when it comes to the US, certainly this government will continue to send us military supplies. If the question is, why aren't we seeing US airplanes, British airplanes, French airplanes, German airplanes that all have been directly threatened by the Islamic regime? At the end, most countries don't want to be at war. You know what? I don't want to be at war. I just saw Avi's data. And that's just the data, okay? None of us want to be at war. But we're the only ones that really feel what it means, the existential threat, what it means here. And in that sense, we're doing it. I want to say that the voices that we're hearing right now, certainly from the United States after we started, but also from UK, Germany today, for those who haven't been following, are very strong supportive voices. And that's very important for the day after, because it means that they are viewing this as something that we did, that it's being effective, that it's being impactful, and that it will put the Islamic regime in a place where the world is trying to contain it more. Does anything last forever? Of course not. But that doesn't mean you don't do it. And I think it's being very effective. So that goes for the military side in that cooperation. Avi, I think it's important also, anything else. Yes.
Not that much to add to that, but because that really covered it. But we are.
I can't hear you again, so you have to talk either slower or more close to the microphone.
Try to move closer. For some reason, that's not working. Well, better.
It's a bit better. Just be, slow. We're going to buy you a new microphone.
Yeah, I guess so. Miri really covered it for the most part. We are, of course, we do have material support from the U.S. because of the fact that a lot of our armaments have come from the United States. So it's not like there isn't any material support. The German chancellor, as Miri just said today that Israel is doing us a favor and taking the burden upon themselves, but they won't be able to do it alone. So will we see them joining in? Will we see the Americans joining in? I mean, we hope so, but we're going to have to see how that goes. And if they don't, we're just going to have to do it by ourselves, and we have to do it because the cost of not doing it, the cost of getting it wrong is just too great.
Avi, we have another.
I would follow up in that sense and say, but economically, do we need U.S. help in that sense, economically, to get through the war, to get after the war, to rebuild, or is this something that we can do on our own? Because the military is one thing.
So the answer to that is that we can do it alone if we have to do it alone. Israel has a very, very resilient economy. It has shown its resilience over many, many years, over many disasters, many very, very hard situations. And if we have to do it alone, we're not going to fall apart. It's going to cost. It's going to be hard. It's going to come, it's going to make things difficult, but we can. But the help would be very, very much appreciated. Like the United States helped with in the past, their assistance will be very, very much it would be great.
Avi, we have another question for you, and you have to again speak slowly into the microphone so everyone hears. Do Avi's estimates of the projected increase in defense expenditures include the cost of replacing armaments used since October 2023 and over the last few days more specifically?
Well, the 200 billion shekel cost that I put there, that includes, of course, the direct cost of the armaments also. It's not, so therefore, if you want to say replacing them, that's fine, but it's basically the cost of what we've been using. So that is also in there.
I think we have time for one or two more questions. Okay, here we have from Ricky. When we have regime change here, I suspect Miri would win 100% of our votes. There you go.
That's Ricky. She's been trying to send me into that realm, and I'm like, no, not going to happen. But Ricky, I appreciate that in front of everybody. Not going to happen. But hey, we'll take it a step at a time. As we said at Taub, one of the things that we really do like is that that's not where we're at. We're about the democratically elected government. Let's do better for the state of Israel. And as Michael goes on in that sense there,
yeah,
we do hope in that sense. So I appreciate, thanks the thoughts, but no, And I really do think in that sense, if there are other questions that you'd like to ask about the different data, about Nir, and just to think about the different things that what we see when we look at a war is everybody goes, Miri talks about the military. But the military attack here is based on Israeli domestic resilience. And that's part of the game plan. And if we don't have an economy and an education system and our kids aren't around, being able to do those things, because I just want to share with you all why I am so involved in the Taub Center. To me, it is the definition of Israel's national security. And I've been part of that realm forever, is that all of these elements are the ones that are going to make us stronger. There are resilience for our future, that we invest in these things. And yes, I'm the military expert. I see that there's actually something either for...
Yes, I think this could be for Nir. What will be the cost for education, healthcare, and transportation when we pay the bills for the war over the next 50 years or so? This question comes from Mark.
Well, I don't want 50 years, it's too long for me. I want to look about next year. But the expenses and the budget for defense in 2024 before the war was about 50 billion shekels. And in 2024, at the end of the year, it was almost 200 billion shekels. And I guess it will be around the same amount in 2025. And it will be very hard to maintain the same level of education, welfare, and health system services in Israel while we are spending so much on security. So as Avi said, the level of the deficit and what will happen to GDP will play a crucial role in our ability to continue investing in these really crucial areas of life, because we don't need only defense, we need the social services here to be also very great. So this is a question that we need we don't know the answer now. We need to see what will be the cost of the war. And next month, the government is supposed to start making the budget for 2026 and prepare the budget for 2026. And then we'll have more certainty about what will be the effect on the social services in Israel.
Mark, let me just add to what Nir is saying. We're not going to be paying for the bill for 50 years. We're going to be paying it much faster than that. So if you've got a 50-year window, that's great. Like Nir was saying, let's worry about this year and next year first.
All right. I think in that sense, then, I mean, I'll hand over to Avi to be able to wrap it up. I think that this has been, for me, I just learned now, like there I was talking about the military, and then Avi talked, and then Nir talked, and I was like, okay, we all breathe them deep, but that's the data-driven research. That's what makes us really get better. So Avi, I hand over to you.
All right, so I guess I'll try to sum this up really quickly. What we showed you the cost to Israel. Miri, of course, spoke about the military side and why it was important, and we concentrated on the costs. Obviously, we don't have here are the alternative costs of what would happen if we didn't do this. So these are significant costs. There's significant difficulties. There's a lot of challenges that face us, and for now, we were able to pull this together really, really quickly to give many of you who we think are probably very, very thirsty for information on what's actually happening, be able to give you a first insider type of glimpse of what's going on. What's going to happen from our perspective, from the Taub perspective, from here going forward, is we're going to continue doing this type of work, but doing it in a much deeper level. So doing the type of research that we tend to carry out, like what we did with the war from October 2023. We started looking at many, many issues dealing with the war and trying to investigate them like we do with the type of research that we carry out to try to inform policymaking inside of Israel, and we're going to continue to do that. We'll continue to keep you all up to date. In order to do what we do, we have a number of people here who donate to the Taub Center, and that helps us very much. It allows us to do what we do. Without that, we would not be able to do that. I would like to encourage more people to do so, and it would be very, very helpful to us to be able to continue carrying out the research that we do and affect Israeli policymaking the way that we try to do it. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. And I just want to say Professor Nadav Davidovich is here with us, and he will be our head presenter next week about the health the health system, which also has a lot of information and data and stories to tell us what's happening in the current situation. So thank you so much for joining us. And if you want a recording of the session, because we didn't have registration to this session and we don't have all of your emails, some of you we do, you're welcome to email us and we'll be happy to share it with you.
Everybody stay safe.
Right.
Shalom, shalom.